So, hi everybody, welcome to the latest Islay Wellness Academy podcast, and in conjunction with the Loving Soul Sanctuary, which is the business sanctuary, the business incubator for solopreneurs and creatives and artists and people who are doing amazing things in the world that maybe not, but maybe are slightly alternative. And we're here from a business perspective to help support people and also just to share in the incredible journeys that are being undertaken by just the most talented, incredible people across the world. And I am absolutely thrilled to welcome today Shelly Riemer from Cincinnati. So I'm sitting in Scotland, Shelly's sitting all the way over in America with the beauty of Zoom. And Shelly is a spirit guide, an intuitive spirit guide and healer and clairvoyant. And I'm going to be chatting today with Shelly all about her business and what she's actually doing. And then also we'll be talking about how she's set up her business, how it is to get that off the ground, doing something slightly different, and also what the challenges have been, what are the things that you've really, really enjoyed about your business, Shelly, and also where do you want to take it? Because you're just about to enter a new phase of growth,
Yes.
which I'm loving because you're along here today to chat with me. And also the other thing I'd just like to say before we get going, the last thing is just to say thank you to Shelly, because Shelly has taken a leap of faith to be what I call one of my first followers in terms of doing something slightly different. And I know from my own experience the importance and just the sheer gratitude that I have for somebody who is saying, look, I'm going to take a leap of faith in you building your business, and we can grow together. And so first of all, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me and coming along and doing this. And yeah, this is a show about you, Shelly. So over to you. Say hi,
Yeah.
and perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what you do and your background really in terms of intuitive spirit guides.
Thanks, Heather. And I just want to say I'm thrilled to be here. I mean, the vision that you have for this community is just so in alignment with my vision, or the vision that my spiritual guides have given me. So I feel blessed to be here. Like I said in one of our first meetings, like I want to hitch myself to your star. So I'm really excited to be here. And I'm super excited to talk about my work. As a spiritual guide, at least in America, and maybe it's the same in Europe too, I'm a little out of center. So I don't talk about my work a lot in most circles. When I go to family events, when I go out with friends, it's really weird. People don't even ask me about my work. And it's been a little isolating. And I used to suffer a lot from what I would call spiritual loneliness, because I didn't have a lot of people to share what I was experiencing, not just in my work life, but also in my personal life as a spiritual seeker. It wasn't until I started teaching guided meditation during the pandemic online that I stopped feeling that sense of loneliness, because I just stepped forward with what I do. And then people came who were of like-mindedness. Like-mindedness, is that the word? Anyway, so I got connected with all these people that made me feel not so alone. So I'm excited to talk about all this. What was the question? Oh yes, I'll say edit that out too.
Yeah.
What I do.
Yes. Yeah. Just start with that, and then I've got a whole load of follow-up questions about how you got into it, and actually even my head's jumping between 2007 and 2010. So there's that gap of growing your business without that community from COVID. But let's start with channeling spirit guides, helping people to access their own, almost like their own intuition or their own ability to perceive themselves and the support that they actually have that they may not even know that they have.
Yes, absolutely. So for the most of my time as a spiritual guide, which I began professionally in 2017, I've worked one-on-one with clients, and that work has been about me. I can hear into the spiritual realm. I can hear the voices of the spiritual guides. That's my gift. Now, the training has come in that I'm trained in psychology. I'm trained in human development. I have a degree from Indiana University in social and behavioral sciences. So it's this perfect kind of blend of hearing the spiritual guides, but then being able to tune into that humanness of like, here's the tools, here's the next steps, here's the very human aspect of how to move forward. And I just take people, I don't want to say by the hand, but what I'm teaching people to do is, like you said, to tune in with themselves and to hear the next steps that they need to have and to take in order to grow, find more peace. And it really is very personal. One of the things that my guides always have me ask people is, what do you want? Most of the time people show up dealing with all that they don't want. And when people can voice to their spiritual guides, to themselves, what it is that they want, that's the North Star. So the spiritual guides will come through and go, here's how to get there. And it's a lot of redirection. I do work with a lot of people who have experienced trauma in their life, which I'm discovering is most people in some form or the other. Maybe it's just the realm that I'm in. So I see a lot of people with trauma. I have had my own trauma to recover from, that I continue to recover from and learn and heal from. So that's another where it's redirected, because when you've got someone who carries trauma, active trauma in their systems, they're always getting, it's very hard to stay on task with where they want to head. So I work a lot with redirecting people to remember what it is that you want. And they go, right, I want peace. And then teaching about like how to stay in alignment with peace. And it's really about people developing themselves. And I'm just here kind of as a guide, as a light. But also, you know, I'm very into freedom and openness. I tell people all the time, like, if you don't jive with what I'm saying, that is fine. I don't like telling people what to do, which is kind of weird. I'm like, I'm a guide over here. But at the same time, I'm like, over here, but only if you want to come. So it's really like showing people, if somebody's like, I want to feel better, I want more health, I want more peace, I tune in with the spiritual guides. I bring through the messages to help show the way. And then I also can bring in my own personal experience of what I'm doing in my own personal life to help myself develop and grow and heal.
And a lot of coaching is about a lot of good coaching, because there's a lot of coaching that's out there. And how I came to meet you as a friend gifted me a session with you. So I know that you're an incredibly good coach. But a lot of good coaching is about self-realization. So the work that you're doing, which is directing people back into themselves, back into yourself, because ultimately nobody's answer is on the outside. You know, our answers are all about how we feel about things. So that what you're doing is very powerful, helping people to remember what they want, but also how to feel their way towards it as well.
And also giving people the courage to live their authentic life. There's one client that comes to mind that I worked with years ago when I was early into my practice. She had a job that paid well and had good benefits. And you might be able to, because you came from the corporate world, so you could relate to this. And she had 2 young children, but she was miserable and she didn't like her job. And she had a vision of this yoga center or like a gathering community center. And we worked together for a couple of years. And the crux of it was helping her to gain courage to take the leap into doing her dream. But she had to let go of what she called the golden parachute. I don't know if you guys call it that in your neck of the woods, but the golden parachute is like, no, not the golden parachute. What is it? Golden handcuffs. It's not the parachute. Golden handcuffs, where she had security, but she was not happy. And there's many people that are trapped in that dynamic in the world right now. And I get that. You know, kind of goes to what you want to talk about, you know, people moving into doing businesses like this. It takes a lot of courage and trust and faith in the spiritual guides and God, in life force and universe, to go, I'm going to make a leap, I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to be okay. So long story short, this client has now had this yoga center for several years now. You know, she's raising her kids. She has these groups. I see it on Facebook, and it is so freaking cool. So that was just me, again, like you said, helping her to align with her vision. It was her vision. It wasn't mine. And to gain courage. She had to gain that courage and trust in her own vision and the spiritual guides to make that change. So, you know, I was really proud of her when she finally got off those golden handcuffs and took that leap. It's really cool.
And what a gift from your perspective to be able to give that to somebody as well. So you're giving courage, but you're also giving permission. Like when we change into doing something fundamentally different, that there's I think there's a multi-step process about actually realizing how unhappy you are. But there's a permission element. You know, we're so, it's like, please teacher, can I go to the toilet? You know, it's like, you know, hold my hand up type thing. That we seek permission from somebody, and what you're effectively doing is saying, well, the permission is kind of coming from your guides, or it's coming from you know, an energy around you that is really encouraging you. That's not going to come from anyone in a human. Well, it might come from a human in the world, but they're not going to feel you. They don't really feel what it is that you're after.
And it's kind of rare. It's kind of rare. Most, you know, a lot of people we project our things onto each other. So even the most supportive friend, if they would be very afraid, if they're very like, no, we have to have our security. Like, what are you going to not have insurance? But they will project that onto you, even if they're the most loving friend in the world. So it is really, I think it is rare to find somebody to support you going outside of the box, because the world can feel like a very scary place, and safety is a huge survival instinct that we have. So for me, I never had a place of safety. I never went into anything in the normal realm. So I never had to leave safety. I've been searching for my safety within this, but my calling has been so strong. Believe me, there have been times when I'm like, I'm just going to go get a job. There's no place else for me to be. I can't not do this. So I am, you know, I guess, you know, and I've had a lot of support. I'm not saying that I've had, you know, I have an incredibly supportive husband. So but I believe that God provides that. And that's what I've seen every time, is that I take a little leap and God provides the landing pad. But I've got to take the leap first. And that's one thing that I teach people a lot about, is that we get called, and having the courage and taking the leap is part of the process. We don't get to always know before we take the steps. So that, you know, I've had to build up a lot of strength and courage within myself to take this path. But no, I never got any golden handcuffs. Maybe, yeah, I was gonna say maybe later, but wait a minute. I don't want golden handcuffs. I'll take the golden part.
You don't want to handcuff yourself to somebody. I mean, I just to touch on my story. I mean, I did have a big corporate career, and you know, I had lots of golden handshakes, if that's what they're called, as opposed to handcuffs, because I never really had handcuffs, because I wasn't afraid to walk away from something that didn't suit me. And what didn't suit me, I think people mistake, like, our ego, our mind mistakes freedom. So there's two aspects to, like, we have 5 big fears. We were talking about this the other day: sickness, rejection, death, humiliation, and freedom. And our ego kind of grips onto those, and our soul, our inner being, whatever you want to call it, wants the flowing side of those. And the freedom bit, which is the golden handcuffs, we associate having money with freedom, but we don't have emotional freedom often. And for me, emotional freedom is far, 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 far more meaningful to me than financial freedom. Well, you need the financial freedom to have the emotional freedom, but for me, I have to have both. So I can't go into I couldn't bear to go back into the corporate world. I mean, it's one of my biggest fears, of having to do that in order to, you know, pay the basics as I'm getting my business going, which I'm sure you can correlate to. Like, you know, a business has ebbs and flows of cash flow, and that's just the reality of it. And why a lot of people like security.
When your spiritual life is your business, so to speak, when you're a healer, a coach, for me, I'll just speak for myself, that ebb and flow has had everything to do with my well-being.
Yes.
So there are times when things have gone my client load goes way, way down. And without fail, I didn't see it in the beginning, but I've been doing it long enough that I can see, like, it's the universe is going, you need to rest, or something big will come up in my life, some sort of learning or lesson that I need to deal with. And so my emotional and spiritual energy goes outside of my business.
When you come back even more expanded, right? Because where we are today is that you're really keen for this year to, you know, to put yourself out in a way that you haven't yet so far in your business.
Right. Yes.
But that's off the back of a period of time where you've, you know, not really had time to deal with stuff because you've been processing things. Would that be fair to say? So when you come back, it's just like, actually, I needed that to dump some of that, so I've got more room to do this. Yeah.
I mean, it's like one of those things, like, be careful what you ask for. My work as a spiritual guide and healer is directly related to my growth.
Mhm.
And sometimes it feels like it's taken a very long time to get here to this more expansive place. But it's because I've had to grow into it. Doing what I do and doing it authentically, there's no faking it. There's no fake it till you make it. There is growth and expansion and then sharing. Like my husband says, it's like I get shoved through the door first. And without fail, whatever lesson I'm working with, when the people, and that's when I always know, like I'm done with this, with a round, my phone starts ringing or whatever. My texting starts happening. That's how people get on me. And I'm like, oh, they're coming back. Oh, good. Like I'm going to be feeling better. Things are looking up. But they will show up. And even if they're longtime clients with questions about the thing that I just went through, it is just, you can set your clock by that. That's what is happening. So, there have been times that I've lamented at how slowly my practice, like I've been like impatient.
Yeah.
But, my practice can only go as fast as I am able to grow and expand within myself. And I've had some really tough things to overcome. And I'm not saying it's any tougher than anybody else's, but I've had my burdens to bear that I've had to deal with and I continue to deal with. But yeah, this last round, I turned 50, and I don't know if it's okay to say it on here, but the shit hit the fan when I turned 50 in terms of what I had not yet processed and dealt with about the pain in my life. It was just,
I'm laughing because the same thing happened to me, Shelly. I'm now 51 and I've had the awful year last year. And now I'm just like, it's grand. I love it.
Oh, it's always great when it's over. And it's like,
gone.
oh, I would do it all again. But in the middle of it, it's like, oh my God. I told my husband at one point, like, I'm done growing. I don't want to grow anymore. It's too hard. But then, it's like one of my first spiritual teachers, which might be a good segue, because this woman came into my life who really changed my life. She was my first true spiritual teacher, but she used to always say that this path is the hardest path with the greatest reward. And absolutely, I've found that to be true. It will test you and have you grow on all levels. And there are times when it is incredibly difficult, but then the growth and the expansion and the spiritual connectivity and that light and the sharing and it's I wouldn't change a thing about it. I've just gotten better at being able to ride out the hard times, and to know that that's what's happening, and reminding myself, like, and she used to say that to me too. I would show up at her house for a session and I'd just be like, wow, oh, I'm suffering. And she'd be like, oh, good, you're growing. And I would just be like, I hate that. And she would always be like, when I was suffering, she was just like, this means that you're growing. And she was right. She was right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I've had this experience because I've been very blessed, but describe to me, I am a client. I have listened to this. I have decided that I want to connect to Shelly. Yeah. What happens?
Well, once we make
I book an appointment. Let's get I'll do all the practical bit. I book an appointment. I turn up and here we are. We're on a Zoom call. What happens?
Yes. So there's two routes that I usually take, and I'll tune in with my spiritual guides and I will ask the person sitting across from me. Either one, I have the person do a short download about what's up in their life and what they want to work on today, or I just dive in and do what I call a cold reading, which is always kind of fun. The cold reading is where we just say our hellos, how are you? It's nice to see you. And then we close our eyes, and I do ask the person to close their eyes and we dive right in. Either way, the beginning of the time when I'm channeling is where the client is also invited to close their eyes, and I just start scanning their energy. And I direct them and I go, okay, and I'm listening to the guides. It's hard to explain that. That's something I could probably teach a class on, because I know people can get trained to hear that. I think that my traumatic childhood was my training. That was the gift. It's like, well, we're going to put you through hell, but you're going to come out with a gift.
And you're pointing here. So is there a space in your head where the information, the energy, the words from the guides actually come into? Can you identify? I mean, you're being very specific when you're pointing now.
I can't say that I've ever really pinpointed a space physically, but it does have to do with word and thought. So, I mean, I would love to sit here and I could do a little, like, where I'm drawn into you. How do I hear it? I see it in my mind's eye and I hear words. So it does very much feel like a thought process, like clairvoyant, it's that all knowing. And I've studied the different, I call them the clairs, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. I definitely am clairvoyant, which is all knowing, which is like, sounds a little like,
I know everything. I know, and we get really embarrassed saying that, right? But yeah, you do. Okay, you do,
I have the all knowing, but it is like a knowing.
Yeah.
And I can talk to you about how I learned to know the difference between my own thought and the knowing. But anyway, so I sit down with the person and I tune in, and yeah, it seems to happen up here. I read, I scan, I call in the guides, and usually they'll present me with what the first thing is, and it's just the thing that shows up in my consciousness first. So, like, can I just share what I'm
yeah, please go on, go for it.
I'm being drawn right into your sacral chakra.
Okay.
That's the creative, which isn't a surprise. Like, here we are, we're doing this very creative thing, and you're creating this huge thing in your daily life. It's like, you're creating artwork and you're creating a business, and so I feel really drawn in, and so that's the starting point. And I just follow the guides as they lead me. So I would go, okay. And I don't know how to explain it. I hear it. I go, okay, and then I would have you take a breath. And then I hear what the guides are telling me in conjunction with why they have drawn my attention into your sacral area. And then usually they will lead us through some sort of settling thing for you. Because and it says this on my website, these sessions for people and my group work is all about moving into higher vibration. It's about having a direct experience of God and the spiritual guides. And so we will start each session with, and really that's just about relaxing. We are that.
Mm-hmm.
If we do not feel that connectivity, it's because we're blocked, we're tense, we're hidden in some way. Mm-hmm. So the guides will come through in the beginning of a session and they'll be like, basically it's like, relax. Now relax again. Okay, you've got some things going on in your sacral. Sometimes they'll invite the client to move. And I always tell people I've got my eyes closed. Most of the time when I'm channeling, I do keep my eyes closed. It helps me go in, and so it'll be like, there'll be some movement involved. I can't see you. I know it might feel weird, but nobody can see you. So maybe there's some movement, and it's really about kind of cracking the encasement or mm-hmm. the tension that keeps us from hearing our own spiritual guides and feeling that. And then the person will usually shift and settle. And then it's just channeled. It comes through. How do I explain this? I hear it. I can, and I just say, here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm hearing. People are always free and they do give me feedback. They'll say, oh yeah, this makes me think of, or, oh my gosh, I had this experience, or sometimes people will get emotional. And then it's like a little mini journey that I take everybody on for an hour. So we connect, we call in the spiritual guides, they show me something, and then we just go on this journey. All the while, the journey is meant to bring people to that North Star. Like that question, what is it that you want? I have a client, if I could just tell a quick, is it okay to tell a story? Yeah. I've been working with her for a very, very long time. She's been in a very unhappy marriage for a long time. She's felt terrible about the fact that she has not been able to leave. Like, she's been hard on herself about that. But it's wonderful because she was able early on to name her North Star, which is peace. I just want peace. So she can get and she comes from a traumatized background. So she can get very out of sync and dysregulated. But every time we come together, there's that reminder, peace, peace. That's where you're headed, peace. So in a session, the guides will go, back into, just redirect. And I have full faith that she will find her way to that peace. There can be a lot of judgment about, and she feels that judgment from others and from herself about why it's taken so long. And the wonderful thing about working with the spiritual guides, there is no judgment. I mean, one of the first times when I first started working with the spiritual guides, because I'm a double Virgo, so I know I think I know what's right all the time. It's just I can be insufferable. Thankfully, I'm married to a very easygoing man who can deal with me. But when I connect with the spiritual guides, they are not in a hurry for they don't want you to suffer. That higher consciousness. I just it's interesting when I talk about the guides as they. because it's us. But anyway, I don't want to get into that as a.
Yes, but I have a question on that. I'll finish your story, but I do have a question about the difference between like you tuning into my spirit guides versus yours. It's like, how much do you work with your spirit guides, for example?
I can tell you that I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
It is to me one large voice of wisdom. And that distinction is not often made for me. Mm-hmm. It's not made now sometimes it is, because I will see and feel a loved one come through. Or I will get a very clear message, Kuan Yin is here. Mm-hmm. Is she here for me or is she here for you? Yes, she's here for everyone. Now, if Uncle Bob is coming through, he's usually got a specific, most of the time when the ancestors come through, it is because of a healing or a pain or an injury in the family. And they are here to support you moving out of it. And I can say that in my sessions, that's true, because I have a very strict boundary, because some parts of the spiritual realm just completely freak me out. Like, I don't want to, people are like, what about dark energies? I'm like, I don't freaking know. I don't do that.
Why would you want to go there?
I don't know. Curiosity. I don't know. Is that the apple? Is that the apple that somebody asked in the last talk I gave about a Ouija board, and I'm like, I don't know about the Ouija board. That's not something I dabble in. And even when it comes to our loved ones who've passed over, this is the part where I start going all over the place, Heather. But
no, keep going, please. I know, this is so fascinating.
Yeah. The difference between my spiritual guides and your spiritual guides, I think of it like this. It's higher consciousness. Mm-hmm. I tap into a higher consciousness. And within that higher consciousness is where the guides are. That's the teachers. The teachers have tapped into that too. You will find Yogananda. You will find, Archangel Michael. You will find Kuan Yin. You may find Uncle Bob there if Uncle Bob was an enlightened guy. And so when I'm tapping into the higher consciousness, it's you, it's me. My husband and I make this joke. He used to call me Shelly G. In the Hindu faith, they add a J-I onto the end, like Swamiji.
Yeah.
That signifies teacher. And it wasn't that, it was kind of a joke, but you have a Heather G. I have a Shelly G, the big soul self. So when I'm tapping into my big soul self to connect with your big soul self, that differentiation, to me, it becomes quite blurred, and sometimes it's very specific. Uncle Bob shows up and says, hey, I'm sorry that I did that to you and I'm here to help. Or, hey, I was part of keeping that painful dynamic going in the family. I'm here to spiritually support you getting out of it. So for me, because I have that boundary, like, I don't want to mess with, people who've died who are carrying or have, I don't know. It's like, if you're here to help, you can come in. If you're not allowed. That's my boundary. So if Uncle Bob shows up, I trust that he's coming in with faith. Yeah. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, I can't remember what the question was, but I'm loving listening to you anyway. So the question that I think I was trying to ask, I'm not sure I asked it in the right way, is for the work that you do,
yeah,
how much do you take your own advice or your own spirit guidance? Do you find, I suppose what I'm trying to get to is, not to put you on the spot about how good you are at listening to yourself, is I know, for example, with animal communication, it's our egos are much more able to find an answer it wants to hear.
Yes.
When we try to connect to our own animal.
Yes.
And I was just wondering if that's the same that you find for yourself. It's like you'll receive information, or you're more likely to challenge it if it doesn't really necessarily suit you, if it's about you.
That's so interesting, because I just had this experience this morning. I have been having some struggles. That's a whole other conversation, but I'm a big information seeker. So this morning I went to YouTube and I'm listening to some experts on this struggle I've been having. And there were some things this guy was saying that I did not like to hear. And I kind of wanted to blow him off. You know what I mean? But I have learned that he probably has something for me. Mm-hmm. Maybe not all of it, but I kept listening. And I realized that what he was giving me was information I felt resistant to, but at the same time was something I did need to hear.
Yeah.
That's a really big question that you're asking. And basically what I'm hearing is like, how do I keep my ego out of all of this? Is
For
that
yourself, not because I
in my
know, because
personal
I know
life?
your ego's not involved in. I mean, I've been with you channeling, and I know authenticity. I not, but from a very, very gut instinct level,
Yeah.
you know, from a business background, but also from my childhood, I can feel when somebody is authentic in what they're doing. And you can see that on YouTube, for example, if you're watching somebody who does tarot readings and they're just reading the cards, or there's somebody who's actually reading the energy, you know, that it's fundamentally different. So I know that your ego isn't involved in, and I can 100% absolutely, for anyone who's interested, say that. I'm more interested in how it works for you.
Yeah. Okay. So I do work very hard to practice what I preach. One of the things that has taken me, I think, a long time to step out in a more big way as a teacher is because integrity, and this is the Virgo in me, I'm sure, like they're going to make you double Virgo all the way. It is really important to me to be authentic. I also have a healthy fear of falling. I do not want to be on a pedestal. I actually would rather not be on a pedestal at all. I mean, fuck that. I don't know if I can say that. You can edit that out.
I'll bleep it. I don't think it quite came out, so I didn't hear it. Sorry.
Oh, good. Okay. Forget that. In my day-to-day life, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I have plenty of places to keep my ego in check and to deal with it. So how I deal with myself and being a highly sensitive clairvoyant is every day without fail, I meditate. I never ever miss. I will get up at 4 a.m. if I have to. I meditate, I journal, I self-reflect. I make sure that I exercise. I have an incredibly patient and loving husband who keeps me in check because he keeps me incredibly loving and he keeps me in check by his kindness. Wow. I know what I have to work on. I listen to the big teachers. I don't simply rely on my own intuition. I have been a devotee of Paramahansa Yogananda's since the early 2000s. I read his stuff. I read Ram Dass, I read Sadhguru, I listen to the big teachers because they keep me in check. They keep me, and I want in check is the right word, but I have my own karmic thing to get through, my own learning to do. And I have teachers that I bow down to. And when I mean bow down, I don't mean worship.
Yeah. No, but you're bound down to your own soul by growing yourself. That's effectively what we're doing. Yeah.
It's funny because you are also a very, I don't know if anyone's told you, connective and intuitive teacher, because last week when you and I talked together, there were some things that you said that as you were saying them, I could feel them in my system, which I always know is a connective experience. And there's a couple of things that you said to me that have stuck with me. And there are things that true teachers have said to me or that I've read. They become part of here I go again, the repertoire of my philosophy and the way that I live my life. And you have already said some things to me in just the conversations we've had that I'm like, that's a lifer. And one of them is I keep seeing the image of you doing this. And that is another thing that I do in the morning when I start my meditation. I give everything to the feet of the divine. Here is my problems. Here is my life. Here are my struggles. Here are my gifts. I give everything over to the light. And that does not mean that 2 hours later, I'm not caught up in some sort of ego stuff. I mean, it happens all the time, but that intention guides me. And the great thing is if I totally screw up that day, well, I'm back on my pillow the next morning. So, that's how I keep it in check in my personal life. And like I said, I have a husband, I have a family. I mean, there's nothing like relationships to
to ground you. I just have a relationship with myself. I think when I do this, it's interesting you pointed it out, because for me it's a bow down to love and respect, like the love and respect of someone else. It's like you are who you are, and everybody's entitled to be that person. So yeah, I didn't even realize I did it, but I do.
Well, you were talking about bowing to the soul, to your inner light,
to your own soul, surrendering to love, surrendering to the love of everybody's right to have love in their life. What I suppose, to circle back on the importance of that conversation that we've just had, and I'm trying to think why I felt compelled to dig into it, is because I feel very free in your energy. Like that a lot of people, you turn up and you feel their fear of life, and therefore it constricts you in some way. So when you become very sensitive, and I'm interested in asking you, because I saw it on your website about how to live as a mystic in a modern world, like, some of your tips about that, because it is really, really important when you become very, very energy sensitive. When I first became energy sensitive, I thought there was something wrong with me. I now know that I feel other people. I also now know another sort of layer of understanding that most of what I'm feeling is a lot of other people's pain, which I find excruciatingly horrible to be around, because I don't like to see people in pain. I certainly don't like to feel them in pain, particularly not when you're trying to process out of your system your own pain, and so right. And so that I for anyone who's listening, and anyone who wants to either be a coach or a spiritual practitioner, or wants to find that authenticity in somebody where, I know if I come to you for a session, I'm not going to be bound by your interpretation of what you think my life should be like. Yeah. There's something that you're doing for yourself, even though I know you have like some immense things that you're trying to, and are not trying to, you are dealing with in your life from your past. Your energy is so free. It's it's just boundless in terms of, it's more than authenticity. It is I'm trying to find the right words. You're very accepting, and that is quite rare. Yeah. So there's something that you're doing that allows that to happen.
Well, I think it's my spiritual practice and my intention. Yeah. Working with these spiritual guides, that's how they are. What you're feeling, I'm in work mode right now. If you and I were like building, a shed in my backyard, you might not be experiencing me this.
I'd be getting told what to do, would I?
Yeah, well, I am quite bossy.
You're being left brain and get on with it.
The thing about my husband is, he has seen me in all my flavors, and thankfully he kind of holds me in this light to think, because he's good at seeing the best in other people. What you're feeling right now is my connectivity with the spiritual guides. Before we started, even though I was rushed, I'm like, okay, like we're doing this. Yeah. This is what the guides feel like. One of my first experiences of working with the spiritual guides, and I started to say this earlier, was there was a client who, now I could probably look back and see that she was a covert narcissist, but she was always sick. And her sickness was something, she was kind of like a black hole in terms of wanting sympathy, and I felt such an aversion to her. And to wanting to give her what she was so desperately seeking. Mm-hmm. But when I closed my eyes, and I'm going to really have to think about this one, Heather, how I keep tapping my head there. And I connected with the spiritual guides. I was, oh my God, they love her. They don't care. Mm-hmm. They see her as a soul evolving. Yeah. And while I might, because I'm in a human body and I'm highly sensitive, and so when somebody shows up wanting to emotionally manipulate people, I'm like, ooh. Yeah. The spirit guides are like, energy is eternal. It's just a pouring out. Like, it's not personal. It's not like, when I'm in this state with the spiritual guides, the energy is boundless. And that's the same way the guides are with me. Mm-hmm. I have all these shortcomings or things, or I'm too this or I'm not that. They don't care. They're not hung up on these things. It really is just love. And the thing is, it's not about right or wrong, or it's just like, do you want to suffer or do you want to get free? Yeah. And that's how they approach people. So when that client I told you about, who for 10, 15 years we've been working, and she's been working on the same problem 10 or 15 years. Believe me, at times little Shelly has been like, oh my God, I don't know how else to say what I have to say to this, but right, I get impatient. The big guides are just like, she will go where she needs to go in the time that she needs to go. Mm-hmm. So I say this to kind of almost be self-deprecating, to know that what you're feeling is you in this energy, and this is me in this energy. Do I live in this space every day? No, I want to, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, how fun would it be to always be this? Mm-hmm. And it is my goal as a person seeking enlightenment, is to be able to live in a state of communion at all times, I believe that I will get there at some point, but I don't know if it'll be this lifetime. But this is where we're all headed.
Yeah,
So
it is, and people are becoming more sensitive. So that's a question I had for you when I was planning for this. Was, are you seeing a shift in trends in the types of people that are coming to you as clients, and what their needs are? Are you seeing a shift towards more people wanting to connect to a spiritual side of themselves, or to believe in something different? So you've been doing this professionally now for 7 years, is that right?
17 years.
Oh, 17. I beg your pardon. Yes, it's 2007. So that's a long period of time. And we had COVID somewhere well, not in the middle, but kind of more towards the tail end of that. But so that's a leading question. If I say, what are the trends? There must have been trends. Are you seeing shifts in people's kind of growth in consciousness?
What I'm actually seeing, which is new to me, is I'm seeing some people come to me that have had very, very little work in their lives. Some people with tremendous trauma and abuse that are our age that have never gotten work. Mm-hmm. And I consider myself, oh God, this is going to sound so egotistical. I consider myself kind of a master teacher. I'm not saying I'm a master teacher because I know
you're allowed to say that. So that's your ego kicking in. You are a master teacher.
I don't know if I'm a master teacher, but I think I'm very...
Well, your guides are a master teacher, if you want to put it like that. Yes. But you are too, because it is the combination of you and your skill and what they're saying. So
I'm working, with Yogananda and Kuan Yin. These are high level beings.
Yeah.
Christ, I've worked with Christ's energy. And I am fascinated by the people that have been showing up who have been carrying tremendous pain in their bodies and in their minds and in their lives for a very long time, who are coming to me. And I'm like, wow. And what I mean by that is that I'm like, these are advanced souls who have been trapped in their karmic story and suffering their whole lives. And they're, you don't show up to an advanced teacher unless you're an advanced soul.
Yeah.
But they're advanced souls who have no idea that they're advanced souls. And the relief that people get. I remember this woman who recently came to me who tremendous abuse as a child. The first thing the guides showed me was her soul. And I told her, here's how I see you. I think she was so relieved because I don't think she's had that reflection, but she knows. I'm like, you are a dynamo. And she's like, I am. And I'm like, you are meant to shine. And she's like, yes. But she's got all this other stuff going on from this abuse that would be sabotaging. And she's had to live with like the struggle of coming forward as this great soul that she is, but then this other side of her that is very self-sabotaging. So I have seen that. I was just talking to my husband about that. I'm like, wow, I have so many clients now that have never done any work. They're just stepping in. And I'm like, you're stepping into me? Like, okay. I mean, I'm just going to trust that, that you are going to take a huge leap. And these are the other thing that's interesting about these new clients that are coming is they're coming very regularly. They're coming like weekly, every other week, and just working really hard to tear off the shroud, I call it, or that encasement of the ego and the karmic story to find their true selves. And it takes time. It does take time.
I can definitely relate to that from a personal perspective and also from some of the work that I do as well. Yeah. And also how when you see someone's soul, which is what you're doing, you're shifting beyond the ego energy. You're kind of going into the emotional energy that people carry around and don't know how to shift. So a lot of the emotions that we basically we build them up and build them up and build them up, and because we're taught to not feel. When we feel, we get the emotions and we release them. And when we're taught to not feel, they kind of literally become this kind of dead weight around our body. And then you're going beyond that and seeing the soul. Actually, it's going out the way rather than in the way, but because the soul is the biggest part of us. The bit that you're connecting to is their true essence.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be surprised, because I've had this said to me completely out of the blue several times, and I'm not doing the work that you're doing. I'm doing something slightly different, but you're still seeing the soul, which ultimately you're probably getting these comments. I've never felt so seen or heard in my life. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's saying that to you, because you're actually seeing their true essence, which they can't even see themselves because it's kind of buried under these layers of trauma. So the relief of connecting with you is like that inner being is just going, oh, I'm safe.
And it absolutely. And I think that's why they keep coming back. Because if you get to a certain point in your life and you haven't cleared up the trauma, that means you've created a life based in active trauma. So you don't really probably have anybody around you who reflects that light to you.
Yeah.
So when you start getting that, it's like, you know.
Yeah,
and the goal is to start creating a life in that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to keep coming to me to reflect it. But that's what my first teacher did to me. I felt like she saw me. And she told me, when I first started seeing her, I had spent years as a waitress and a bartender. I was really big into smoking marijuana. I was just kind of a hippie. I was in massage therapy school because I'd already gotten the call that I was going to go into the healing arts. But she said, you're going to do what I do. I was like, what are you? I didn't even how did you, what are you? What is this? What are we doing here? And because she saw me, and it was a relief. And I kept going back too, because I had not been seen. I didn't have people in my life who were capable of really seeing me. I think some friends, but they were busy trying to see themselves, and
most of them still are.
I mean, it's like, so it's so important. The teachers are so important. And I've got Kuan Yin back here because I call her my real mother. And she's the goddess of mercy and compassion. And she was the first guide that I really felt connected with and really felt drawn to. And she's a teacher. My first teacher, Christine, was a teacher. Barbara DeAngelis, I've studied with. Ram Dass, Sadhguru. Everywhere there are teachers. The teachers are very, very important. And we've got to be humble enough to listen and let them guide us. Let them guide us out of our own karmic delusions and into the light. And it doesn't mean that the relationship with the teacher is always easy.
No. And also, as a teacher, we never stop learning and growing either. So, I will know something one day, and then I will find something that actually changes my perception of what I thought I know yesterday, and it becomes something new. That there's an evolution that goes on in that as well, which is a beautiful journey to be on. But it's also, what's the right word? It's very personal, and sometimes when somebody kind of wants to hang on to what they think that they can give you, it can be a little bit heavy going sometimes.
In terms of a teacher?
Yeah.
I've experienced that.
Yeah, because you get students who only want to be told what it is that they think they want to hear, and sometimes you have to tell them things they don't want to hear, and that is it can be a challenge sometimes.
That's why I feel so blessed that I can hear the spiritual guy. Maybe I'm pointing to her. Here we are, Kuan Yin. Listening to
nobody's going to challenge you then. So it's not a personal challenge.
But I feel like, listening to the spiritual guides instead of leaning, it reminds me of my dad was a Baptist minister, Christian minister. And so I have scripture I know, but it's like not leaning on your own understanding is something they say in the Christian faith. And absolutely. I mean, I have studied a lot. I can say that I know a lot. I've got a degree in that. I've continued to study. But what I know psychologically is so limited to what I can do when I access the guides with people. And part of it is just the energy of not having an agenda. People come and people go. People can say, Shelly's not the teacher for me. That's fine. That's the guides. When we rely on our limited understanding, we will get weird with the people who come to us at a certain point. It can get weird.
Yeah.
We've had teachers get weird with us because we're all working out our own karma, but I don't want to work out my karma in this space. I'm either going to be a very effective channeling teacher or not, I work out my karma with my loved ones where where it belongs.
I love that. It's so healthy. And I did do a bit of coaching before I connected to energy, before I found animal communication and then went on this wild journey. And I know I was very intuitive, but I did have somebody, or not one person, I had a few people, but people who had come to me for a sort of multi-sessions. And by the time I got to 6 to 8 sessions, I knew that they were on track and they didn't need me anymore, but they were coming back. And by the time I got to 10 sessions, I was just like, no, this is going wrong somewhere. I was starting to feel bound by it. Whereas with tarot, for example, why I love it is because, one, the cards bring out the coaching messages for it. It's life coaching, right? Tarot and oracle cards are life coaching. That's what they do. They bring out messages and, okay, you're interpreting them, and there's a whole weird side to it about how it works that I can't even quite figure out, which I'm sure is something to do with guides or other sources of energy. But it is an interface where actually the message is for the person who wants to find it, and it's not personal. So there isn't so much of me going into it.
That is exactly right. And I think that's what the guides are, is that when the people are coming, they're coming for I'm very clear about that. They're not coming for Shelly, they're coming for the guides. Mm-hmm. Just like when they come to Heather, they're not coming for Heather, they're coming for the tarot.
Yeah.
For some reason, it reminds me of like being a bartender, and why I love to be a bartender was the bar.
Yeah.
Got the people, and then you got the bar, and then you got me.
Yeah.
And it creates this natural boundary.
Yeah.
And I think the guides create a natural boundary. And my job is to be the best channel that I can be, to bring through the guidance as clearly as I can. And sometimes I just lay it out and I go, because sometimes people go, well, they might not like what I say. And I go, oh, I don't know what to say. Like, here it is. That's all I got. Yeah. This is the guidance. This is, and I don't go like, oh my God, they need to understand me so that they like me. Because I really want to be liked. I'm a people pleaser at heart. Oh my God, I don't want to say that hasn't gotten involved in my practice ever. I have ruminated sometimes when I feel like I haven't given all that I can, or it didn't come across, blah, blah, blah. I used to ruminate a lot on that. I didn't give what I could have given.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, as I've evolved as a teacher and a guide, I'm just listening, and I'm a messenger.
And let the personal aspect drop. And that's a journey. I think that's a confidence journey. I think it's also a part of us aging as well a little bit. We kind of go through step changes in our own evolution as a human being, growth, where other people's opinions become less and less important as well, even for us people pleasers.
Yeah, it really, and the suffering from people pleasing becomes, for me, my call to live an authentic life. I'm like, this is a whole other subject we could talk about, but I'm like, people pleasers are dishonest. I was a dishonest people pleaser because I would say yes when I meant no. I would agree when I did not agree.
Yeah.
I was like, I told my husband one day, and I could be hard on myself, I was like, I'm a liar. Not get carried away. But in a way, I was living, dishonestly, and I'm still learning to live authentically. It's going to be very difficult for me to disappoint people.
I just don't go anywhere near them. That's my way of not disappointing them. It's like, well, I'll just stay away.
Well, earlier when you're like, I'm just having a relationship with myself, I'm like, listen, I lived for years like that. I loved living like that. Sometimes I tell my husband, I can't believe I'm living with people. It's so weird.
I don't want to be on my own all the time, but it's just like it's easy because I don't want to take on other people's pain. I don't have any room for it. Yeah. So tell me a little bit, how are we doing for time? So we're probably heading up to about an hour. So there are a couple of things I'd really like to cover off if we can. First of all is just that business aspect. What's it like running a business as a solopreneur? What are the things that you enjoy about that? The freedom to be yourself, perhaps, but what are the bits that you have maybe struggled with, and the points that you've reached out or wanted to reach out for help? That's number one. And then I'll let you flow, which is after we've talked about the business a little bit. I'd love to see some of your artwork and just create, because being creative is so fundamentally important for us to be able to grow as well. So 2 things just to cover off in our last few moments.
Well, the first thing I just have to be completely transparent about with my business is that since I started on this journey, I have been married to an incredibly generous man who has been my main provider. That puts me in a very different position than some people. Now, I'm not saying that, we're not loaded and we have to live very frugally. And we've, my husband and my son included, we have less. because I'm on this path.
For
Thankfully, for now. But we have had to make, we live in a tiny home and my car is like 14 years old, and I'm willing to do that because there's nothing stronger in my life than my spiritual calling and my desire to give this gift. So I just want to say that because like if I was a single mom and I felt this calling, I don't know, God would just have to work it out in a different way for me. I guess I don't know what that would look like. That's not the life I'm living. But I will say this is that God has provided every step of the way. The divine has provided. And I wholeheartedly believe that if you have a calling, Spirit is going to provide for you. Just trust that Spirit is going to provide. And that may be a part-time job that you do it part-time. I don't know how God's going to provide for you, but I know you will be provided for in some way. I see that with my husband. I fell in love with and married a provider. And believe me, I have had a lot of time of feeling guilt. I was raised by a career woman. I was raised in the 70s and 80s. Women, we provide for ourselves, So, having this space to create this business and letting it go as slowly at times as it's gone has been such a blessing. And I think also necessary. So that being said, what was your question?
What are the challenges about running your own business? So,
okay, well,
first of all, what do you love about it and what don't? Because I mean, you are running a business as well as being a guide. You are running a business.
And I started running my own business when I became a massage therapist in 2000. That's the first time I ran my own business, and I've done it ever since then. So I've been doing it for 24 years of running my own business. Challenging, of course, is the monetary aspect of it, and that you don't have that security necessarily that a company can provide for you. There's ebbs and flows, and really, again, I've had to learn to trust.
Yeah.
And every time we have needed money, it has come through. We have been so well cared for. So learning to rely upon Spirit to do some providing is very, very different than what
surrender, isn't it?
That's the surrender. And again, I've said before, I'm like, there have been times where I'm like, forget this, I'm going to go get a job. But there is literally nothing else for me to do. It's like all the doors close. I can't even make myself. It's like, no, this is the thing. Keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. So that's very challenging. Other than that, it's freaking awesome. I love having my own business. I make my own schedule. It is, again, maybe it's that double Virgo, and I'm extremely independent spirited. I mean, I remember years ago making a joke. I'm like, oh, I'm unemployable now. And I just, aside from the calling, I love making my own schedule. I love using my gift to help people. I mean, I feel extremely blessed that I have a gift that I can use to help people. I just don't, for me, it doesn't get any better than that. So for anybody who's thinking about doing it, I'm like, if you could even just do it a little.
Yeah.
Where I started giving, I think it was for free. Like was I pregnant yet? So this was 2007. I got the big call. I got like the message finally landed, like, boom, you're going to do this. And no, I think I did.
I'm sorry. We're going to have to do another video, by the way, because I want to hear about all of that as well. So we're going to come around and do round 2 in about 2 or 3 months, because there's so much more.
Yeah, I didn't even get to how I got here, how I got to do it. So, I think I started off very cheaply. I don't think I did it for free, because I really am a big believer that when people pay for something, they value it. And when people get things for free, they value it less.
Yeah.
And plus I needed money. Yeah. But I started very, very cheap, and almost like I hung up my sign, I got the calling, and then I just spread the word among my friends. And I already had I was a massage therapist, so I had clients, and I couldn't do massage therapy anymore because I was having really bad back pain. So I said, this is what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm any good. Let's give it a roll. And I could very quickly see that I was very good at it. And so then I started raising my prices. But if somebody has if you're a tarot reader, you want to get into Reiki, anything you want to give, you want to make oracle cards. I mean, I'm listing all these things in the holistic realm, but anything, just lean in. I mean, it's so fulfilling to give what you've got to give and to sing your song into the world. Even if it starts out, like I started out very, very small. And I know once the empire is built, not that I'm trying to build an empire, but sometimes I think God is guiding me to like.
I just wish that you just want to say, yeah, I want an empire. I mean, I really do. I wish more women would say, you know what, I want an empire. I want to have it all. I want my cake and I want to eat it. And boom, it'll happen. So you have that empire.
That's the coaching session you and I should have, because I'm not sure if I want an empire or not.
No, having an empire can remove you. So having an empire needs to be run. And that does.
I have things that I want to do. I have that I want to do, that I want to put out into this world. And it's taken me a really long time to get here. Mm-hmm. But I will say, with all the angst of the years of kind of like, when is it going to happen? When is more going to happen? I wouldn't change a moment of it, because I've been developing myself to get here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of the other things that I do, Heather, that I notice, I'm a huge cheerleader for people. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what a cheerleader is?
Yeah.
Like, I cheerlead. I'm like, do it, go, go for your dreams, go for your vision. And you will be fulfilled, even if you do it start out small. Just if do tarot for your friends, you know, do it for yourself. I read for myself every day. I have oracle cards. I always have. I mean, I have not as many as you. I mean, you're like the queen, but I, just do it. Just do it. Yeah. So I love having my own business. I love using my creativity in the business. The financial aspect and the patience and the business end has been a struggle for me. I'm an extremely creative, intuitive person. So like the technology part, I just get so resistant. And it just came to me recently, so silly, that I need to ask for help. Yeah. Asking for help is not something that's always come naturally to me because of the trauma of my childhood. I became like insufferably independent in some ways. But recently I'm like, all this stuff I don't want to do for my business, the marketing, I can ask for help. And when I started asking for help, you showed up. That's how it works. I'm not special. That's how it fucking.
There we go. And I want to build a community, and you show up. There we go. And I want to be able to help people with all that enthusiasm who want to help others. I'm getting a funny light coming on me here. And here you are. And I also am such a strong believer in supporting each other, supporting your ambition, because it's so important. It's important for world peace. Honestly, it's like, is it that grand a scale? It's important for world peace that we have as many people as possible doing things that they love, being able to make not just a living from it, but being able to make a really, 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 really good living from it, if that's what you want. And the best way to do that is to work and doing things, collaborating, to do affiliate marketing with each other. It's like, I promote you, you promote me. I was doing a talk last night to a load of women, and I some beautiful women, a load of women. That's an awful thing to say to some beautiful women. But I'm terrible at opening doors. But a lovely lady who's supporting me opened that. She's my cheerleader, like she's my pimp. Or I don't call it like I'm a pimp, because she'll open the door. But once the door's open, it's like, hey, I'm here. I can make you feel really happy about money. It's like, you go for it, girls. But to get in the door in the first place would be like, oh, there we go. So if we cheerlead for each other, then we can do that. And so we're better together. We're better in a community, and there's the other thing that I find with women as well, which is actually a lot of women don't really like or want to make money. It's like they feel embarrassed, or they feel shy about it, or actually they just don't want to. They want to be looked after and be provided for, and I get that as well. I'm just very lucky about how my career and I didn't go out for a career, but it is really important that we actually say, look, if you help me do this, I value you for helping me do that. You get a little slice of it, I get a bigger slice, and the customer gets something. And there's not, like, I think people are like, oh no, I couldn't do that. And it's like, yeah, hang on a minute. That's how communities, that's how empires are built, by doing these collaborations. It's like, I run a course, you promote it through your site, you get a bit, you run a session, I bring I advertise you with my audience, you get a little slice, and that way everybody wins. And that's the thing that I really want to be able to help with the community and that business. So take the sting out of that self-promotion in a business, and I be your cheerleader, you be my cheerleader, and everybody cheers because they get both of us, right? Yeah.
And that is, I do think there's something that I was in a pyramid scheme kind of a thing years ago. That's another story too. But we talked about it. What did they call that? It wasn't promoting. Oh, edification.
Yeah.
But they
Okay.
were talking about edifying each other. And I'm like, that is so great. Like, I'm going to like edify. And of course, it needs to be genuine, like
Yeah.
genuine edification. But yes, it's like, and I do think as a woman, I've really struggled with the money thing.
Hmm.
The need drives me. Needing money,
Yeah.
I need a new car in a year or so, like need will drive me. The desire for money has been a struggle. But one thing I've learned about working with manifestation principles that I think, and I think it's a female issue big time in our world too, in the Western world, which is another, we need to start a podcast, Heather, because we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We're definitely doing another
We're
session.
let's talk about the patriarchy. But
We
anyway,
get you on with Erin as well. That'll be good fun.
yeah, let's just do that. That would be so fun. I would love
Yeah.
to do that with
Yeah, I
Erin.
know.
But anyway, yeah, I think that for me, what's led me to kind of dig into the more abundant and to gaining abundance for myself in my life is what I want to do with it. Like,
Yeah.
if I focus on money, I get weird about it. But if I focus on the fact that I want to travel, I get very excited. And I know I need money to travel. If I focus on, like, there's things I want to do for our home, we have an old home and she needs some care. That gets me excited. So I think we just have to find our way to that.
Yeah, and we are off on a completely different tangent, but I did give a 2-hour talk last night to some women about money. So money is nobody in this world. There's not one single person in this world who's chasing money, because money is an IOU note that bridges the gap between two energy sources, either something you want or something that you want from, and it's just an IOU note. It's actually written on it. It's just an IOU note. So everybody, even if they think they're after money, money's not the destination. It's the experience on the other side of money that everybody's after, because money's on the outside of us. What we're actually after is the experience that is how we feel on the inside, whatever that experience is. So yeah, when we're chasing money, we're not chasing money. We're chasing security. We're chasing lovely experiences. We're chasing happiness ultimately, but the money doesn't buy the happiness. We have to feel the happiness in order to have the happiness.
Right. We have to know what we really want, because there's a lot of people who have a lot of money who aren't happy.
And then some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all seen that. That's
So, right, let me see. I really want to just finish on some of your art, because it's something that's a really important aspect of you and who you are and your self-expression, but also part of what you actually give to people when you're out in the world doing some of your exhibitions.
Well, I'll show you what the first. So yes, one of my favorite things to do is there's and I'm new to it, but I've decided is one of my new favorite things. It's called Body, Mind, Spirit Expo.
Carry on with that. It's getting dark here. You pull up your lighting and around.
Yeah, it's like midday.
There we go.
Yeah, it's the Body, Mind. It's called Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, and we had one in Cincinnati. I'm doing another one in April where I do readings for people, and at the same time, I'm selling my artwork. So it's I just love it. So one of the first things I did that I actually sold was I created a series of cards. I created a series of images. And you'll see that even though I do a lot of things, all my things have a similar, it's all whimsical. And so this is like a little.
I love that.
Card.
Have you done any oracle cards?
I would love to do oracle cards. It's on my list. I have not. But anyway, I did a series of drawings and images, like with pen and marker. This is the logo that I made. This is the logo for my business.
Yeah, wow.
And then what I did with those also, so I did a whole series of these, and they're all like, very similar. And I have them now, and I make things. So like here's something I sell. It's a tote bag with one of my images. So I have that I do. And I've been wanting to come up with a new series of images. The other thing I have done is mosaic work. So again, you can see it all has the similar flavor. One of the things I do is I repurpose. I go to Goodwill or thrift stores or garage sales and get used things, and then I repurpose them, make them pretty. So this was just a hook. It's wood.
Yeah.
And then I put a mosaic. This is all mosaic. These are little glass things. And, you could put that up in your house and, like, I don't know, hang your keys or something. So I've got a couple more of those pieces. You have to take my rear up in the What am I doing with the camera? You can
Right.
edit that part out. This was just something I found. It's just a little wall hanging.
Uh-huh.
So I painted it, so I do that. Um, this is another example. I found this. It was just a little
I
brown
love
thing. I painted that. And then the other thing that I do that I started last year is I've started doing abstract paintings. This is a painting I did based on a tarot card. It's called the Lady. So this
Okay.
is the Lady. And
Okay.
she's got little things back here. And this is just an old, it's a tabletop that I found on the side of the road.
Love that.
Yeah, I just, I'll pick stuff up off the street. Like I'm not, precious about that. I've got several
Is
things
it
I've
acrylic
found.
you're using?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then this is a painting I did. This is a channeled painting. I just start painting and I see where things go. So you've got the mountains. If you look over here, that's a little Buddha statue. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then, I mean, the thing is there's no rhyme or this is channeled.
Yeah.
This is I haven't glued her on yet. I did this separately. This is Kuan Yin. And she goes here. And then this is her mantra, Om Mani Padme Om. I don't know if this is done. One other thing with my abstracts, it's hard to say when they're done. I think they're done when I can't see anything else to do to them.
I get it.
Now, I have had some training in, very limited, but I've had some training. Like I took a charcoal class and this is one I did. Now I have to tell you, this was my first experience using charcoal. And the fact that I was able to do this blew my mind. Like I have to tell you, I was like, how did I do that? I mean, she's good. And I really do have a very strong feeling in my body when I'm creating work that I've been an artist in a past life, because there are things that I can do with color and drawing that I've had no training in. And I don't know how I know how to do some things. But the teacher of this class came to me and he's like, you've really got something. And I'm like, this is my first class. So, Paul the Venetian, are you familiar with Paul the Venetian, the guide?
No.
He's really prevalent in Kyle Gray's decks. Do you know Kyle Gray?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's Scottish.
Go. Yeah.
I love him.
It's about an hour away. I know. I'd love to get in touch with him and meet him.
Yeah, I took his during the pandemic. I took his angel guide certification, which was funny because I've been doing this work for so long. But I don't know, it was the pandemic. I'm like, well, I'll just get a certification.
We're gonna have to see if we can meet him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love him. Anyway, he does Paul Venetian in a lot of his decks. Paul the Venetian is like the patron saint or the guide for artists. And I've connected with him as a guide several times, and I definitely can feel a very strong past life connectivity as an artist, because I don't know how I created her at my first try. Pretty great.
Amazing. I love it.
So I do all kinds of stuff, but it's my real love is doing art, because of how I feel when I'm doing it. I feel very free, very connected. I get like super excited. I'm doing a series for my new series. I'm just starting on him. This is a repurposed Buddha statue. I painted him. And then I've got these little flowers I picked up at the little art store. They're paper. And then I'm gluing them just all around the bottom. Wow. And I'm doing little bird things, and I'll put the little flowers all around the top. And, I come up with this stuff. I think it's my guides. They just drop things in my head. And if they don't, I don't know what to do. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Like, when I have the vision, I'm working.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm kind of waiting for the vision.
Like, no, I get it. Sometimes it comes and goes.
Yeah.
I love that. So, Shelly, we're going to wrap up because we've probably been at least an hour and a half, maybe heading towards that anyway. So if you're still with us, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Now, Shelly, tell everyone, I'm going to put this on the screen anyway, but I'll edit it in, but tell everybody how they can get hold of you, events that you've got coming up. So if somebody's watching this now, if there's any events that you have coming up that they might be able to join you, and anything else that you want to close out with.
So the best way to reach me is through my website, which is skywardhealingarts.com. skywardhealingarts.com. You can send me messages through there. You can subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll be on my email list. So some of the things I have coming up, I'm actually headed out to Colorado next week. I've got 5 events I'm doing. I can't even hardly believe it. It's so great. I'm doing group readings as well as small mini readings at several places along the Front Range of Colorado. So if you live in the Colorado area, come on out. Other than that, I am teaching after I get back from Colorado, starting in March. I will start a new round of guided meditations. I typically teach guided meditation classes on Fridays at noon Eastern time, which is 5, I think, your time.
Our time, yeah.
So, and that can be done wherever you are in the world because we do that via Zoom. So, any event I will send out through my email list. That's the best way. You get on my email list, you'll know what's going on. And then in April, I have a Body, Mind, Spirit Expo here in Cincinnati. And my goal is to get, 2 or 3 more big events this year. Maybe more. I love the big events.
Yeah, we want you on stage. Come
Here,
on.
if anybody out there, if you're just dying to host someone like me, my big dream I have is doing big group events and teaching and having people pay for me to travel to come to them and do it. So
it's going to happen, and we want that. Can you please make it Scotland, by the way, so that we can get?
Yes. Well,
whoever's watching, go and sort it. We want Shelly on stage in Scotland.
Yeah. I'm like, I just, I public speak. I do like to be on stage. I've finally been able to let myself admit that. So that's some of the stuff that's coming up. I'm sure it'll keep evolving as the year goes on, but I feel like 2024 is finally the year.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been those little kids cars where you go and you kind of wind it up and then you let it go. I feel like in 2024, I feel like God's been doing this to me for years, and I feel like I'm going to take off.
Yeah, I have a similar but different feeling about 2024. It's a culmination of a few years of hiding myself away, working on lots of stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm ready. So it's a big year. All right. Yeah. Well, we're going to support each other going through it. I genuinely love chatting to you at any occasion, let alone doing it on screen where we can share just the incredible energy that you have and just that feeling of just flowing. And we're definitely doing this again. Maybe in 2 or 3 months' time, we'll just have to make this a.
Yeah, I never even told you how I discovered I was this weird.
No, I know. We haven't even gone. I have a whole raft of questions we haven't even touched on, but you know what? It doesn't matter. We'll come back to them.
Yes,
we'll do it again.
Let it flow. Thank you, Heather. This has been really fun.
Thank you very much. And take care. Okay.
All right. Take care.